I'm going to tell you guys some real college horror stories. If you like this video, make sure to subscribe because I made a whole series of these. Okay, so here are my friends and I were in college at this university. And we had this one professor who was pretty hot, but he was also really, really mean. So we had this class and it was 3 hours long and it was all lecture. Well, it was the last day of class for the semester, and about 20 minutes in, he started talking about how we're never going to remember anything from his class. And it was just kind of this condescending, arrogant, condescending thing that he does. So we all kind of laughed it off. But then he kept going on this rant, and he said that we'd be lucky to remember our own names by the end of the semester. And then he said, "You know what? I'm gone. Nah, make a $1,000 bet with one of you that by the end of this semester, none of you will remember my name." We were all kind of laughing and making jokes, and no one took him up on the offer. And honestly, I don't think anyone in that class liked him enough to want to do that. But me being me, I called him out on it. I was like, "No, professor, I can remember your name." Okay, so this next story is from a friend of mine, and I think it's really interesting. So she was in her dorm, and she shared a bathroom with 3 other girls, and they all lived on the same floor. One day, one of the girls came out of the bathroom, and she noticed that someone had written on the mirror in lipstick, "Jane, I'm watching you." She thought, okay, it's probably just some stupid freshman girl that's trying to scare Jane, so whatever. But then the next day she came out, and it said, "Jane, I'm watching you," and below it said 2 days. And then she came out the next day, and it said, "Jane, I'm watching you, tonight." So she told all the girls on her floor, and everyone was like freaking out, and they were like, "Oh my gosh, what's happening?" So they ended up calling campus security, and they started investigating. But it turns out that it was actually the mother of one of the girls on the floor that was coming into the bathroom at night, and writing that on the mirror because she thought that her daughter was possessed by a demon, and she was afraid that her daughter was gone. Nah, kill herself. And so she was trying to warn her. Okay, so this next story is similar to the last one. My friend Megan was in college, and she lived on this floor that was all girls. And one night, she was in her room, and she heard this loud crash from the room across the hall. And it sounded like something heavy being dragged across the floor. So she just thought, okay, it's probably just some drunk guy that's in that room, so whatever. But then the next night, she heard the exact same noise, and it was coming from the same room, and it was exactly the same. So she went up to her Ra, and she was like, "Hey, what's going on in this room? Like, what's making all those noises?" The Ra was like, "Oh yeah, that's just Sarah. She's fine." So, a little while later, Megan was walking back from the bathroom, and she stopped by Sarah's room because she wanted to like introduce herself and be like, "Hey, I'm your neighbor. Nice to meet you." And she knocked on the door, and she was like, "Hello? Is anybody home?" And she started getting this weird response where it was like a whisper, and it was like voices overlapping each other, and it was really creepy. So she ran out of there and she told her friends, and they all thought it was hilarious. They were like, "Oh my God, that's so scary." So they decided that they were gone. Nah. Sneak into Sarah's room, and they were gone. Nah. Hide in her closet, and then jump out and scare her when she came back. So they went and they hid in the closet, and they waited and waited and waited. And finally this girl came back to the room, and she opened the door and she turned on all of the lights. And when they saw who it was, they were like, "Oh, it's just Sarah. That's weird." And then they jumped out of the closet and they yelled, "Boo!" And Sarah screamed and she fell backwards off of her bed. Then they were like, "Oh my God, I'm sorry, Sarah. I didn't mean to do that." And Sarah was crying and she was like, "It's okay, it's okay." And then Megan's friend asked her, "What's wrong? Are you okay?" She was like, "No, I'm not okay. You guys have to leave now." So they were like, "Okay, bye." And then Megan's friend looked through the window and she saw Sarah standing by the window sobbing. And then she threw herself onto her bed and she started screaming, and she would not stop screaming. Then she jumped off of her bed and she started crawling on the floor, and she was still screaming. So Megan's friend was like, "Oh my God, what is happening?" So they went and they told the Ra, and the Ra came and she took Sarah to the hospital, and she never came back to school. Okay, so that last story is crazy. If you like this video, make sure to subscribe. So here is second collage horror story. Every day before school, I had breakfast with my dad. It was a tradition that we both cherished. Okay, and every day he would ask me how my day was going to be, how my classes were, and if there was anything special happening at school. I would tell him all about it. We'd love this time together. Because it was just the two of us in our little kitchen, and it was quiet except for the gentle humming of the refrigerator and the clinking of my spoon against my bowl. And one morning when I was in 5th grade, I told my dad something very interesting. There was a new girl in class named Elizabeth, and she always wore these weird, scratchy sweaters that looked like they came from the 1940s. Dad didn't really say anything about her. He just gave me a strange look and then changed the subject. But after that day, I never saw him again. That's because he died a few weeks later. I still remember the day of his funeral like it was yesterday. My mom, my sister, and I stood by his coffin as they lowered it into the ground. My sister cried, but Mom held it together really well. She kept saying, "It's all right, we'll be okay." And I thought she was being strong for me, so I did my best not to cry in front of her too. After the funeral, we went back to our home, or rather the house my grandparents had given us to live in while Dad was in the hospital. They hadn't taken it back yet, but I could sense the tension between Mom and them. We were barely speaking. And a few days later, Mom announced she needed to go visit a friend out of town. So my sister and I stayed with Grandma and Grandpa for a week while she was gone. They didn't know how to cook, so we mostly ate takeout food, and we spent most of our time watching TV. Then suddenly, without warning, Mom came back. She seemed happy and excited and said she had a surprise for us. She had rented a new house. It wasn't big or fancy, but it was all ours. The 3 of us moved in that weekend, and it was the first time I'd ever seen my mom sad. "I'm sorry," she told me and my sister. "We don't have much money now. Your dad's insurance hasn't come through yet, so this house is small, and it's a little rundown, but it's ours." Over the next few weeks, my mom started working long hours at the hospital. She said she had to do extra shifts to make up for the loss of my dad's income. So my sister and I started taking care of ourselves. We made our own meals and cleaned the house, and it was a bit lonely. I missed my dad a lot. I was scared and confused about what was happening to my life. Then one afternoon, while I was walking home from school, I saw Elizabeth sitting on a tree stump across the street. She was crying, and I wanted to comfort her, so I ran over and asked what was wrong. "Oh," she said, wiping her eyes with a tissue. "I just miss my parents. They died last year in a car accident." "Oh my gosh, I'm so sorry," I said. "I lost my dad a few months ago." Elizabeth nodded, then quickly got up off the stump. "Well, I should go." "Bye," she said. "Wait," I said, "why don't you come over for dinner tonight? My mom would love to meet you." She hesitated for a moment, then said, "Okay." That night, I told my mom all about Elizabeth and how much I liked her sweaters. Mom smiled and said, "It sounds like you two are becoming good friends. I'd love to meet her, but I can't. I have to work the night shift tonight, remember?" Of course I did. Mom was working more and more hours, and it seemed like she never had time for me anymore. I felt a little resentful, but I knew she was doing it for us. So I just told Elizabeth my mom couldn't make dinner that night, and they too started talking about their parents. At first, Elizabeth was quiet, but then she began telling me stories about her mom and dad, and I listened intently. She described how much her mom loved to sing and how her dad would dance with her around the kitchen when he came home from work, and I could feel how much she missed them. Her sadness was almost tangible, and it reminded me of how I felt when my dad died. So I put my arm around her shoulder and told her how sorry I was for her loss. After that, we went inside and watched TV until her mom picked her up. I walked outside to say goodbye, and she told me she had to go. "But can I come over tomorrow?" she asked. "My mom's going to let me stay with you." "Yeah, I'd like that," I said. The next day, Elizabeth came over right after school, and we went to the park near our house, played on the swings, and laughed and talked about everything and nothing. After a while, we headed home, and I told her my mom would be home soon. "Mom says she has more double shifts coming up, so she won't be able to make dinner for me again tonight," I said. "Oh," she replied, then fell silent for a moment. "Well, I guess I'll just go home." No, you're staying here," I said. "I mean, you can stay as long as you want. My mom would never mind." But just then, my mom pulled into the driveway. I panicked and yelled, "She's not here to stay, Mom. I just meant that we were playing house." But Mom didn't believe me. "Why would you lie to me?" she snapped. "Go clean yourself up. You two are staying for dinner tonight." And I could tell by her tone that I wasn't allowed to argue. Elizabeth looked really upset, so I tried to reassure her. "Don't worry," I whispered. "My mom can be kind of scary sometimes, but she's really nice once you get to know her." We sat down at the kitchen table, and my mom served us spaghetti and meatballs. Elizabeth was really quiet, and I think she was intimidated by my mom. Mom didn't help things by staring at her the whole time, so Mom said finally, "Elizabeth, do your parents know you're staying here tonight?" "Oh yeah," she replied. "They said it's okay." Mom raised her eyebrows suspiciously, but she didn't press Elizabeth any further. And after dinner, we went into the living room to watch TV. Mom sat on the couch with Elizabeth, and I sat on the floor. And then Mom turned to Elizabeth and said, "You know, honey, your sweater is really pretty, but you shouldn't wear it to school. It looks like something an old woman would wear." Elizabeth's face crumpled and she got up to go to the bathroom. Before Mom could say anything else, I yelled, "Stop it, Mom. That's not nice." "What are you being so rude for?" she shot back. "I was just telling her the truth." "No, you weren't," I whispered, then ran after Elizabeth. I found her in the bathroom and asked if she was okay. She was biting her lip to stop herself from crying, and I hugged her. "Don't listen to my mom," I said. "She doesn't know what she's talking about." She sniffled and nodded, then went back to the living room. Mom asked her if she wanted to watch a movie, but she shook her head and said she was going to go home. As she was leaving, Mom said, "Well, at least let me walk you to your car." "Damn, it's okay," Elizabeth said. "My mom will pick me up." "What?" Mom asked. "But you don't have a mom?" She froze and looked at me. I could see tears welling up in her eyes, and I felt bad for yelling at her. I stepped forward and said, I'll walk her out." Elizabeth nodded, and then I led her to the front door. I opened it for her and asked if she was sure she didn't want me to walk her to her mom's car. "I'm sure," she said quietly. Then she turned and ran down the sidewalk. When I turned back to close the door, I noticed something strange. The road where Elizabeth's mom was supposed to pick her up was empty. And even more strangely, I could have sworn I heard a car door open and close. But there was no one out there. And when I looked down the street, I saw nothing but bushes. There were no houses facing the road. I took a step forward and tripped over something. I reached down and brushed dirt off my foot. And when I pulled my hand away, I saw something embedded in the dirt. It was a piece of Elizabeth's sweater. I looked up and down the street, then slowly backed away. I ran inside and slammed the door. I don't want to sound like an idiot, but I think Elizabeth might be a ghost who haunts this neighborhood looking for her mom. Maybe her mom died in a car accident and Elizabeth is still waiting for her. That's why she wears those old clothes. I don't know, couldn't help but shiver as I remembered how cold Elizabeth's sweater had been. I'm here with another scary collage horror story. This one comes from our community member Tomo, who says, "I was at my local store buying some things for my girlfriend who was sick. One of the things that she wanted was some chocolate oranges. They were out of stock. So when I got home, I decided to check online to see if the other stores had them in stock. I found one about 20 minutes away, and they had plenty of them. My car was due a service, so I asked my girlfriend if she wanted to come along, so that she could get some fresh air and get her mind off being ill. She agreed. And after I dropped off my car at the garage, we headed to the store where I knew they had the chocolate oranges. We parked up and walked into the store. We got what we needed and headed to the checkout. The store was pretty empty, but there was this couple in front of us in the checkout that were taking their time. They were buying loads of random things, and it just felt like they were doing it on purpose. There were only 2 tills open, and both of them were very busy. The tills were on opposite sides of the store, and there was no way of bypassing them to go through the other till. So we were stuck behind this couple, and it was getting frustrating because we, literally, just wanted to get the chocolate oranges and get home. Eventually, the couple in front of us moved to the till on the other side of the store, which meant that we could finally start checking out. As we approached the till, the lady looked at me and said, "Sorry to keep you waiting." I replied, "No worries." But my girlfriend was not in a good mood. We started putting our stuff on the conveyor belt, and the lady suddenly stopped and said, "Wait, I think we forgot something." Her boyfriend started scanning the store with his eyes as if looking for something. Then he said, "Yeah, we'll just be back." He put down the items that he was holding, and he went around the store while the lady waited for him by the till. At this point, I was starting to get really annoyed. My girlfriend was seriously ill, and all I wanted to do was get home and give her the chocolate oranges. Now this guy has been gone for about 5 minutes, and he still hasn't come back. And the lady is just standing there waiting for him. I don't know why she didn't just check out without him, or even ask him to go around and check out for her, so I just decided to leave. I told my girlfriend that I'd just go and get the chocolate oranges from the other till while she waited here. I left her with the lady and I went around to the other till. There were no staff members around, so I just grabbed the chocolate oranges and went to join my girlfriend again. When I got back, the lady was staring at me. She said nothing, and then she turned and walked away. Got to my girlfriend and she said, "What happened? Where were you?" I explained to her what had happened and she said, "Let's just get out of here." I was getting a bit creeped out now, so I agreed. We left the store and we got in the car. As I was driving, I kept thinking about the lady at the till. What was going on with her? Why was she just staring at me? It was weird. Tried to shake it off and focus on getting my girlfriend home. We arrived back home and I gave her the chocolate oranges. She opened the window to get some fresh air and she said, "Thanks for helping me get out of that situation." That lady was so creepy. I don't know what she was doing. I agreed and I said, "Yeah, I was thinking the same thing. Maybe she was just having a bad day." The next morning, my girlfriend woke up feeling a lot better. She said, "I feel great. I think all that fresh air must have helped. Thanks for yesterday, by the way. You're such a star." Smiled and said, "No problem. Anytime." I went to the kitchen to make us some breakfast, and when I came back, my girlfriend was on the phone with a very distressed look on her face. She said, "Yeah, that's the guy I told you about." "Yes, he did." "No, I don't understand." "No, I haven't seen him since yesterday." "Yeah, okay, I'll keep an eye out. Thanks." She hung up the phone, and she looked at me confused. She said that was the store manager from yesterday. Called to say that the lady that was at the till had been reported missing last night, and the police were looking for her because she hadn't been seen since 6 p.m. the previous evening. The store manager was showing security footage from the till, and it showed me and my girlfriend checking out, and they wanted to speak to me. I was shocked. I said she didn't look like she was missing last night. She looked fine. Besides, she left on her own. "You didn't see her boyfriend take her anywhere?" The store manager said that they would investigate and get back to me. Within an hour, the police turned up at the house. They asked me lots of questions about the lady. I told them everything I remembered. They also checked the CCTV footage from the store. Eventually, they thanked me for my help, and they said that they would keep me updated. I'd never heard from the police again. The store manager did call to say that they had found the lady safe and sound, and that she was okay. But that was the end of it. To this day, I don't know what was going on with that lady. Was she trying to get me to come with her? Was her boyfriend involved in something shady, and she was trying to flag me down to warn me? Who knows? Anyway, thanks for listening, and please leave a comment below with your thoughts about this story. Also, don't forget to subscribe to our channel. Tomo.